Hello everyone, this is Wombat and welcome to another Rebellion playthrough in 1 hour. Today I am playing the role of the Rebels and my friend Grant is playing the good guys. He's playing the Empire today. So what are we up to? We're going to do a fairly standard deployment. I'm going to drop 3 troops on a Y-wing in Utapau. I changed my mind on the transport here shortly, with the idea that when I play the Rebels, I like to try to score as many objectives as possible. Now, I know that seems kind of like a crazy thing to say because that's the object of the game. But what I like to do when I'm Rebels is I like to take a close look at missions that I draw and ask myself, how can those accomplish objectives for me? And I like to only try to play cards that work towards that objective. Rebels have tons of fun cards that do all sorts of frustrating things to Imperials, but if you spend your time trying to score objectives, ultimately the game will usually work out in your favor. So with this particular deployment, I have a lot of units in the base, so you can afford to pick something that's next to a starting Imperial group. He's most likely going to subjugate Mon Cal, subjugate Kashyyyk, subjugate Bothawui, maybe keep somebody around for moving to Naboo. Tatooine seemed like kind of a natural choice for me. With a couple of interesting starting missions available, Rogue Squadron and Incite Rebellion again. I want to save those for will those things help me score objectives. So Tarkin is on a card here. That's a pretty standard Imperial play. He likes to threaten the idea that Tarkin could play his card to gain 2 loyalty on an area where there's a Star Destroyer. So I'm starting out with Rebel Assault. And then my first infiltrate, I have a choice between Support of the Hutts, which I already have 1 loyalty marker in that region, or another combat objective to destroy 3 health worth of units. The reason I didn't take Support of the Hutts is because I currently have an Incite Rebellion, which I'll try to keep for that. The other item I have is the Kill a Star Destroyer card. That's largely why I decided to leave the Y-wing in the base instead of deploy it early, so I can use a hidden fleet or something to try to score a Star Destroyer kill later. So far we've subjugated Mon Cal, we've had Bothawui subjugated. Mothma's going to build alliance. There's not a lot I can do if Tarkin wants to move to Seleucid and then play his cards, so I'll just kind of go with it. Vader's going to move to subjugate Kashyyyk. Tarkin might rule by fear. He might R&D. Hard to know. I didn't sabotage anything, so we'll just see how this goes. And he R&Ds. So that makes sense. It's a good conservative play. I like early rapid to take a look at cards so I can bluff where my base might be. Now, interestingly enough, all these draws are fairly bad. So, I guess Felucia we can keep in mind for later. We're going to draw Crippling Blow, which is what we infiltrated. And then for leader objective, I drew Covert Ops, so it would be nice to have a 3 intel. I don't have a 3 intel, so I'll go ahead and grab Wedge with the idea that I'll need to blow up the Death Star later, or we could blow up some Star Destroyers. Wedge is good for either one of those. It's also worth pointing out that I've got Leia with C-3PO, or not C-3PO, with R2-D2. That's a really good blocking Rebel character. So if I keep Leia back, I can likely afford to stuff units in my base, and he likely will not gather intel. Now he grabs Ozzel, so we need to keep in mind catch them by surprise. Probably the best Imperial action card there is. Again, not a lot we can do about it, but it's good to know in case we're trying to plan a Star Destroyer kill first move or something along that lines. Okay, so no Covert Ops to play here because I don't have a 3 intel leader. I deploy basically in the base. Need to be thinking about how to kill a Star Destroyer. Need to be thinking about good Incite Rebellion targets to score Crippling Blow. All right, so what we're going to do here, we'll try Incite Rebellion, do another infiltrate, gain a alliance. I probably should have done a second rapid to try to pull a planet that I could then bluff for later. But you want to think here, you want to think, okay, if I need to block a gather intel, which is an easy pick for Imperials to do, who do I need to keep behind to do that? So hopefully I change my mind and pick Leia here, but we will see. All right, Wedge on the sabotage, Yan to stay behind to block, and then we'll just need to see how they decide to do missions. So we got Tarkin on a card, we got Vader on a card. So Vader on a card, you need to be thinking capture. So if we pull off an Incite Rebellion earlier, that may or may not be a good idea. We're going to start with an infiltrate with Leia, and we're probably going to try to stack our leaders to hedge our bets against a potential capture. Easy choice there. Stick defensive positions on the bottom. I don't plan on building a lot of turrets, so we'll just go with it. Ozzel's going to move to Dagobah, which means we've got incoming in Utapau next turn. I don't think we saved anything on the queue, so nothing to bolster that with. And then the most proactive move we could do here would be to stack everybody. So Mothma with Incite Rebellion, and you can see what I did there. I opened with playing Infiltrate with Leia, so that way, if they tried to block, I have 5 diplomacy to roll. Otherwise, he could have just dropped the Emperor there, maybe blocked it, maybe have the Emperor's card, anything along that line. So open with kill a unit, that gets me 1. Rolled 1 hit, and then now I need to unfortunately spend a valuable card here to guarantee that I kill that 3rd unit. So I ended up, maybe not needing to do that, but again, the idea is I've already committed the card, the Incite Rebellion card, so I need to make sure that goes through so I can score that objective. Now, scoring that objective, it wipes Bothui, which then also weakens his ability to check Tatooine, to subjugate other areas. All these things are useful, but it comes across like I'm just playing an objective. Also, putting Mothma where Leia is helps defend. I probably should have sabotaged in Bothui as well to stack extra leaders there. Instead, I sabotage Mandalore. I don't want to draw too much attention to Tatooine. And you can see Tarkin did a promote for Krennic, which means we likely have a capture incoming on Wedge. So at that point, since I know they're going after Wedge, I just sort of put Dodonna out to keep the momentum in my angle. So I managed to block this one, which was good and fairly lucky. So I definitely had things going my way there. The Emperor subjugates Toydaria, and everybody comes back. One of the things that I should have thought about with Wedge is whether or not it would have made sense to spend 1 in a million to prevent the capture. He's likely got some follow-up cards. Not a lot I can do there. I draw Obi-Wan here. Keep in mind we had Covert Ops, which is a great card. I've also got Dodonna's starting card that I will likely use here around turn 4. So not too much to do here, just kind of basics. All the normal missions plus doing a Covert Ops with Obi would be great. We know Vader's on a capture, and the card I picked with Obi was Noble Sacrifice. So we're actually going to open with Obi-Wan, give him an easy target, gain an objective, and if he captures, we'll just go ahead and eliminate him and gain another objective. Being a little bit behind in leaders it's not great this early, but it's rare to be able to pull that off. So you can see he's got Krennic on a card, that's got to be capture. He's got Emperor on a card, that's probably lure. He's got Tarkin or Ozzel on a card, that's probably R&D because we're right before a build round. So keeping those things in mind, we have Leia back to block, just in case he's on a gather intel or something like that. Obi's going to open with a Covert Ops. We're going to draw a card here. So I've got Rebel Cell and I've got Seize Control. So I don't have a great place to drop Rebel Cell. So I'll put that at the bottom and I'll gather Seize Control. So now I have 2 combat objectives to score, and I also have regional aid that I drew last time. So both of those should be scoreable. Okay, Krennic's going to drop capture. We're going to let that capture go through. He does it. We're going to nobly sacrifice Obi-Wan. He's gone. That's too bad, but we gain another objective. So we're on turn 3, at the beginning of turn 3, and we already have 2 objectives scored. Okay, so we need to be thinking about regional aid here also. So we'll go ahead and do another infiltrate. Again, it's a good idea to do your infiltrates early, because if you do them early, you know what you're building towards. So we could grab Leave No One Behind or the Death Star plans. I'm not quite queued up to kill the Death Star because I don't have Plan the Assault. And the Death Star is not next to the base. So we'll take Leave No One Behind. We'll try not to get anyone captured. And in this combat, we'll see how we do here. We're going to try to block some hits. And so we need to be thinking about how we can... Oh, that ended up being better than I thought. Okay, I'm pretty sure we end up losing this combat. I can't imagine. Oh, no, maybe not. Got lucky. Okay, so I did a damage to the ATST. And so now I can potentially finish it off with another combat card. I don't love playing that second damage card because I might need it for Seize Control later. But the potential ability to wipe the Imperial army here was kind of too good to pass up on. Didn't end up happening. He still got an ATST left over, but I probably should have kept that for Seize Control. We'll see. See if that comes back to haunt me. The idea now, I'm just trying to kind of power through my cards here. But we need to be thinking about Seize Control, making sure none of our leaders are captured, killing a Star Destroyer, and regional aid. And then we also don't have Obi to kind of keep tempo on our side anymore. Wedge is going to do a sabotage here. I don't know if that's a great idea for a position, but the concept there is maybe I get to Felucia down the road, and he likely moves everybody out of Mon Cal so he can't build there later, and maybe I deal with Salakami or Salukami. All right, Tarkin leaves everything out of Mon Cal. I know for sure I don't have cut supply lines in there because I've already infiltrated all my stuff away. It's always a good idea to think about not just what objectives you're trying to score and what objectives could be coming up in the queue out of the 5 level 3s that we have coming up, but also the objectives that you're not going to have. So when you infiltrate, you should always keep a reminder of what level 1s are going to come up at the end of the game again. All right, Soontir's off to Alderaan. Riken is going to rapidly mobile, and Ozzel.
Commence primary ignition.
Ozzel's going to blow up Alderaan while poor Leia sits there and just watches, unable to oppose. All right. Grabbing loyalty in Corellia while he's at it. All right. So we were talking about objectives, RIP, Alderaanians. So we're talking about objectives with level 3s coming up. There's always 2 Death Star plans in the queue, so you want to keep in mind things like, can I afford to infiltrate the first Death Star plans, or do I want to, or if I have the first Death Star plans, do we want to, make sure we're infiltrating on level 3? It's hard to know. Rule of thumb, I tend to try for the level 3 Death Star plans, and oftentimes if I'm tight on missions, I won't infiltrate level 2s because I like my level 2 objectives. All right, we're going to pull a rapid. I've got Ryloth in there as a potential. I got Mon Cal in there. A little bit of information on there is good. A lot of newer players, myself included, I never realized the power of doing rapids without the intent of moving the base. I always thought it was a move the base card, but sometimes knowing what probes your opponent doesn't have is a good play too. All right, so we're going to score regional aid. We're going to Grab No One Left Behind with the hopes of scoring that here. Although I didn't draw a rescue card. I got a lot of rescue cards left in the deck and haven't drawn any yet. So I have a choice between Luke or Baze's Loyalty. And I have some combat objectives to score, so I'm going to take Chirrut. I like Chirrut in general, and I don't like the idea of Luke getting captured and turned on accident. So we're going to go with Chirrut there. Deploy in the base. And then also just jump into assignment here. All right, so we're going to try to prevent our leaders from being captured. We're going to try to score seize control. And we're going to put Chirrut on Public Uprising to try to help with that. Leia back to try to block another Gather Intel. She had a critical one last turn. And then we also still need to kill a Star Destroyer. So we're on turn 4. Looks like the game will probably end in, maybe 3 or 4 turns if I can keep him to that. He has a reasonable force near Tatooine, so just got to keep trying to score objectives here. Also got opportunity to finally play Rogue Squadron Raid. I could probably afford to put it off one more turn, but I've got a few options on here. I've got a shield bunker that I could nuke. I've got that Star Destroyer that's probably the right target. So we're going to open with Rogue Squadron, and this is actually not a great move. My idea is I'm trying to stack my leaders to prevent a capture. You can see with his card deployment, almost guaranteed for there to be a capture in here. Okay, so Soontir is going to, Finest is going to open with a capture. I'm going to plop Leia there. And then I need to decide right now whether or not I'm going to use 1 in a million to prevent the capture. I think that's actually the right move because I don't have Death Star plans. Like, I'm not going for the Death Star, and I know he's got follow-up cards for a capture in there. I decided not to use it, and Wedge got captured. And once he's captured, I can no longer, and here's the example of what I was talking last time. So once I'm captured, I can no longer use 1 in a million. So I really think I should have burned it here. And then my other example, he's going to grab a Gathering Intel here, of infiltrating level 2s just popped up here. So had Inspire Sympathy, which I can obviously take advantage of, and also had Liberation, which is an easy card to score. So I had to toss Liberation because Inspire Sympathy is an automatic. Instead, I should have just played Dodonna's starting card in the base. I was trying to think that maybe I was going to attack out to claim a Star Destroyer, but that's why I didn't play it early. But really, I should have just done that, grabbed Liberation, and then still could have kept Inspire Sympathy on the top. All right, we're going to grab some Loyalty in Ryloth. We know he's going to make a push towards Ryloth because he doesn't have that, and he's starting to consolidate in that corner. Chirrut's going to do a Public Uprising right where Riken sabotaged. So I could have tried a Public Uprising in Utapau, but I probably would not have won that to free Wedge. So here what we're trying to do is we're trying to claim the Star Destroyer. So we decided against the Corvette for the cancel card, and we went with Y-Wings and damage, and we're just kind of going for it here. Chirrut on Public Uprising is nice because I also had the ability to play his card, but in this particular system it didn't make sense. I also sort of overthought this, where I sabotaged and then also did an Uprising. The reason behind it wasn't because I was trying to score Seize Control and the Star Destroyer kill, Rebel Assault together. I was just trying to make sure Chirrut's Public Uprising didn't get blocked because he still had Vader back there. So that was the concept there. You always want to score the harder objective, which in this case is Rebel Assault. I would have preferred sabotaging, Geonosis or something instead, but I couldn't afford to let Public Uprising not go off. So we did score Rebel Assault. so that was good. And then we drew Inspire Sympathy, also good. Had I played Dodonna correctly last turn, we could have also been holding on to Liberation right now as well, with 2 potential objectives we could score for combat and 1 for Inspire Sympathy. So this is probably going to end up being a fairly large oversight here. Okay, Riken's going to try to grab combat cards back, and we are 1, 2, 3, 4 objective points away, so we can get really close to ending this. He's also really close to the base right now, so I have a pretty good size force in there, but he has some units there as well. So we're going to sabotage with the idea of I can attack out, seize control, use Cheroot to, and here we go. So he's exploiting weakness. That can screw our plans pretty well. And try to block it with Leia here. I think that ends up being a mistake, but I sort of got to try it. He rolls poorly, I roll well, so we block the exploit. So the idea now the problem is I have to play Riken to get my move action back so I can actually attack into Geonosis. And Jan is infiltrating. I have a choice between Uprising and Show No Fear, and I'm way far away from Uprising, so I don't have a great option except Show No Fear. If we had instead, I guess we would have been in the same position if we had played Jan's last turn, just without... All right, so one more exploit weakness coming through, and I take a brief moment to think about playing 1 in a million, but I can't. So exploit weakness, I make a mistake and show him all my objectives. I don't know if he saw or not, but we agree on a certain number of shuffles and then give him the top card. It ends up being seize control. So think again, if I had also still had Liberation in my hand, I could still score that in Geonosis, but now I can't score it because it just got exploited. So unfortunately, now I'm going to be down 1 additional objective point. Again, had I grabbed Liberation, would have been okay. I sound salty about it. We're going to play Riken to get our combat cards back, but we do not have a follow-up attack in place because we're just holding on to Inspire Sympathy and no captured leaders without a rescue. So needed that to go a little bit. Couple of things I could have done on that. So, all right, grab my combat cards back. Still got a ton of Imperials to move around. So Tag is going to go to. He's actually going to go to Tatooine and stumble onto the base. He's got a 50-50 chance here. He obviously doesn't have Tatooine, and we know he doesn't have Ryloth because of Rapid. So we're going with Tatooine. And he finds the base, and now we got to think about how we want to deal with combat here. We just got all our combat cards back. I have Riken. My option is, so what I'm thinking about here, I could either play Riken for some rerolls, or do I want to hold out and then attack out into Geonosis or into, or to try to blockade RotE or something along that lines. Again, had I had a combat objective, I think I would have done it differently. Tag plays his card, which is actually, I used to hate that card, but it ends up being really useful in some situations, this being one of them. All right, so definitely have the advantage in air, but if you guys have watched my Imperial videos, you know I like to, in these sort of situations, I like to do damage. I don't necessarily like to try to save the Star Destroyer. So in this case, I have to decide whether or not I'm going to burn my Mon Cal card now or if I'm going to burn it later. So I know he doesn't have Imposing Presence, so he's likely either flipping the combat or doing damage. The correct move here is the Mon Cal card, because if he flips the combat, I can flip it back. So I'm debating on whether or not I want to save it to next round and just use the transport card here. And instead, I don't know what I'm doing. So he does no removing damage, so he's going to wipe. He's going to do 5 damage. I could have I could have saved the Corvette and then potentially played another card, which could have been the transport card and prevented, basically everything from dying. But now I have, in theory, I couldn't heal anything. Now he decides to kill a ground unit instead. And I roll pretty terribly here, so not a whole lot I can do. Kill the striker so he can't cancel a card, and we'll just put the Star Destroyer out there for next round. We do save the Corvette, and now we have a little bit of a mess on ground to deal with too. So not great, but we're just going to do what we can do. So we'll tow cables the AT-AT. Tow cables the AT-AT, and he'll kill a speeder. Pretty standard open play there. Ground combat tends to be a lot more simple if you don't have the cancel card, because there's so many good damage dealing cards that flipping the combat is a little bit less important, because the attacker can usually take advantage of heals. So in ground combat, if you're not sure what you're doing or what to play, default by dealing damage. In space, if you're not sure, oftentimes it makes sense to try to flip the combat if you're attacking. So that's just little feedback on my end. So I roll terribly. Is that my roll on ground? No, we're just dealing damage at this point. So he rolled pretty well again. Wiped speeders, wiped troops. I needed a little bit unluckier roll from the Empire there, but we're going to try our best here, and we're going to deal out a lot of damage. Going to try to save some guys, do some extra damage. It was good. Wiped everything. So the rebels survive to fight another day. Unfortunately, we did not save any snow speeders, so we just got a handful of dudes left, which can be subject to planetary conquest or hunt them down. We can't quite hunt them all the way down because there's 4 of them instead of 2. I guess he ended up with 1 ATST left, and he decides not to hang around, which I think I probably would have made that same decision. Again, all the more reason I should have prevented damage there. I think I tried to get a little bit too cute with that combat, and I'm gonna regret that later. So he plays Ozzel's card to draw some probes, and he strips loyalty from Ryloth with the Emperor, and then creeps the Death Star up. So I'm going to score Inspire Sympathy here. It's going to give me 1 more. However, I should have, put myself in a position where, imagine had I not played Rican, I'd probably be 1 troop further down, maybe 2 troops further down, maybe all 3. And the reroll in space didn't do me any good. So in theory, had I played 1 in a million on capture, attack out in Geonosis here, for example, maybe win that, scored a point, also would have been able to score no captured leaders. So I know it seems crazy to have played it in that situation, but game could have gone a lot differently in that instance, especially since I didn't have planned the assault and I knew I wasn't going for the Death Star. All right, so now we're getting kind of desperate here. So I deployed 2 in Nal Hutta with the idea that since I drew Seize Control, I need to go for a victory in a sabotage system, which I have a chance of getting to, assuming he does not rule by fear and R&D right away. So I keep Chirrut back for that attack. And you'll see here, I mentioned something just a minute ago where I mentioned that 4 troops are subject to planetary conquest. And here I've got Chewbacca, who I spent the effort grabbing last turn, sitting on Kashyyyk on Wookiee Uprising, which literally does nothing. So I have no idea what I'm thinking. I think so if you guys watch my other videos, I tend to get tilted sometimes when I play and stop thinking when I get angry. The next video I'm working on now, you'll see that pretty clearly too. Okay, so he brings in Soontir. I like this move a lot. It opens up the base. So yes, he's only bringing 4 TIE fighters in. I'm thinking about whether or not I want to play Dodonna. I need to. So I'm don't know why I thought so long on that. It's not that Soontir is going to wipe everything here, but he has the ability to do some damage, and putting Soontir there early means he can follow up with a Planetary Conquest and to have those extra dice there to roll also. So he's going to damage both the Y-Wings, do a damage to the Corvette. We're going to hopefully save the Y-Wings here. Or maybe, yeah, I do save one of them and then wipe the rest of the TIE fighters. So that move only got one Y-Wing, but that's an important kill, and it's definitely worth 4 TIE fighters, and dropping Soontir there to do that also means he could planetary with a, Krennic's Finest, for example, and then, and then not risk Vader in case I was sitting on Return of the Jedi. All right, second follow-up card, Ozzel, catch them by surprise. Is what it is. So I've got a chance here. I've got enough troops. Again, I didn't kill that ATST last round, so because I wasn't able to kill it, it's coming back repaired for more. So now I definitely have to play the Mon Cal card here. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe it'll work out that I saved it last round and ended up sacrificing some of my ships in exchange. So he will flip the combat. The correct move is to flip the combat back here. I do not flip the combat back. I block more damage. So I'm now blocking 3 reds, a direct, and a black, which is too much. I shouldn't be doing that. I should have flipped the combat back. It's really important to try to take advantage of those heals, especially if you're not opening with a damage card or if they don't have existing damage on their ships, because any heals they roll are totally worthless. Now I've put him in the position where any heals he rolls are useful. So again, if we had imagined this in a different universe with this roll, right now I would be killing a Star Destroyer, an Assault Carrier, and a couple of TIE Fighters, and he would be killing, well, we'll see. So instead, I have to kind of do this limped-in damage. He rolls 2 red heals, which would have been worthless if I had flipped the combat back. But instead, I blocked extra hits, so the red was going to be blocked by the Mon Cal card. So I would have saved 1 direct damage and 1 black damage, but just bad decision. So if you're an Imperial player attacking, and they have all their cards, I would flip the combat, force the Rebel player to play the Mon Cal card, and then force them to play their Nebulon card to flip the combat back. Anything else is a win for you. So yes, attacking into Mon Cal cards are bad. But by opening and flipping the combat, you're essentially taking away another one of their good cards, and then just all they're doing is blocking 2 red hits, which isn't the end of the world. Okay, ground combat. I need to open with red damage here. So the key is to kill the ATST. So he's going to do 2 damage to my guys. He's going to attack, probably kill most of them. I'm going to need to rely on rolling a heal and a direct hit and a black hit. So we'll see. He's only got 1 reroll because it's Ozzel. He'll do 4 damage total. So all my guys are wounded. I get my direct, I get my black hit, and I get 2 heals. So lucky me. All right, so what are we open to? We're open to Planetary Conquest. We are open to hunt them down. And we still need to win our space combat here. So no retreating, obviously. I don't imagine he is either. It's a good idea to count your dice. That's what I'm doing right here, just to try to figure out. And I realize I'm kind of screwed. So I could play the Nebulon card to divert all the damage onto the Nebulon, which is what I should be doing. I need to rely on some lucky rolls here. Instead, I think I end up trying to do damage, which again, I don't know what I'm doing here. I think, I'm not playing the most sound situation. I should be rolling last here, which should give me the advantage for healing. He should be playing a no heal card. Instead, he can block damage and add TIE Fighters back into the mix. It's just a mess. All right, and we're going to rely on him not rolling so well. So we're just we're going to do as much damage to things as possible and keep him with the Star Destroyer alive. Hopefully he rolls no heals here. And he does roll a heal, and he does roll a ton of damage. Unfortunate. All right. Monkal's dead. Y-Wing's dead. Nebulon is damaged. Also, playing the transport card early I basically told Grant he doesn't need to worry about the transport because I played it early. If you keep the transport card in your hand and the Imperial player knows you have it, they will consider putting red damage on a transport so that you don't play that card later. So it's something else to think about here. Don't drop it early if they have lots of targets. Force them to go after your targets. All right, we are mostly academic at the rest of this fight here. I'd have no more space units on the board. And again, going back to the capture in 1 in a million, there was no reason to keep that card there. Also, had I saved a wedge instead of Dodonna for the attack, I could have dropped 1 in a million on the fight here, and that also would help against Planetary Conquest, which we know he has because he just dropped both leaders on a card here. So lots of little in-game mistakes. But, you know, like this game's super hard and it's super unforgiving. So if you are... Okay, let's cover this and then I'll get that in a minute. So attacking in with Baze uses Baze's loyalty to wipe the assault carrier, and then also gonna try to win the space combat here to score another objective. I do. So we win space, score another objective, seize control. I didn't have anywhere else I could put those guys because the base was revealed, so that was the right move. And now we're only 2 objectives away, or 1 turn. So he does have Planetary Conquest. He does land it, which is too bad. So had an opportunity to win this. But again, had I played Wedge there, or had I rescued Wedge, I could have been blocking with black cards instead of Dodonnas. So again, don't be afraid to use 1 in a million to keep Wedge alive. And I guess, you know, maybe lesson for the Imperial player, if you have an opportunity to capture Wedge, probably not a bad thing to do. I have lost many a game to 1 in a million in base defense situations. I'll have to load one of those games so you can see. All right. Well, I am not as strong of a Rebel player as I am an Imperial player, but I hope that this was fun to watch. Hopefully it gave you some ideas on things to think about and how to score objectives. And, you know, a lot of some of the mistakes I see Rebel players make is they'll use powerful cards like Uprising to prevent me from building a Star Destroyer or prevent me from, you know, something. Try to keep your powerful cards to score objectives. I think that's the big thing. You can put a lot of pressure on the Empire and they can make a lot of risky decisions that don't end up working. So I can't wait to get my next video going. It's already in process. It's a good one. I will see you guys next week.